Well, if you watch movies or TV at all, chances are high that you've seen one of the Baldwin brothers. The youngest of them, Stephen, was most recently a formidable opponent on Donald Trump's Celebrity Apprentice.
He was a favorite, all right. Stephen's novel, The Death and Life of Gabriel Phillips, was just released, and I'm telling you, it is a real page-turner. He is here to talk about the novel and all things Baldwin. Please welcome, if you would, Stephen Baldwin.
Well, great to have you.
Thank you, and I don't know about all things Baldwin.
Maybe not all things. How about some things?
There's some stuff BC there that we don't, we'll just discuss with the Lord down the road.
In that confessional booth.
Yes.
Yeah, but you guys got a lot going on. You're more busy than me.
Well, I don't know about that, but we can go. You wrote, is it 2 books at the same time? You had 2 deadlines, is that right?
Yes, I actually have my 3rd book was happening simultaneously, because in my world, still pursuing the acting thing,
right. Not
making the movies I used to, but still involved in producing and production, and now in the reality world doing a lot of stuff. I'm developing a show with Mark Burnett right now, who did Celebrity Apprentice and Survivor, and we have another internet project we're working on together called the Christian Values Network, which I'll talk to you guys about later. It's a fascinating thing, but my schedule can get backed up very, very quickly.
Sure.
And I become a scapegoat myself sometimes, But speaking of that, if I may, I really think Sarah's more of a scape caribou, so to speak.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
Scape caribou.
Sorry.
That's good.
Had to do it.
You kind of have a favorable opinion of Sarah Palin, don't you? You've looked at her as a good candidate and campaigned for her?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think, what's done is done, and in my own cute little way, I've been doing interviews to promote the book, and I've been telling people, well, America's sure going to get what it asked for now. That's just my opinion. And it definitely, I thought that leading up to this election, all things considered, I thought that Senator McCain and Sarah Palin were the right team now. America has cast its vote. I fully am in support of Barack Obama going in there now, and we got to support him and do what we got to do. And but certainly, I think Sarah's great. I just love her heart and her zeal and standing up for what she believes in, and she's pro-life, and she just really represents a lot of the same values that I believe in.
Sometimes you wonder if you didn't just sit at the table with your brothers and take polar positions just to argue, because you guys are you stake out these strong positions and are very articulate in defending them.
Well, I've been asked about leading up to this election how that all has been going, and I've had to explain to people that this Thanksgiving will be the first time I had to hire a professional food taster.
Thanksgiving at the Baldwin house. This should be fun.
We'll see if I survive.
A little caribou there, sir.
One, so I got a shot. I might live to see another day.
But only because of that, because you were Sarah Palin's favorite Baldwin, so that put a big target on you.
Sure, yeah. Alec did Saturday Night Live and did this
was so funny,
little opening skit with her, and pretending that she was Tina Fey, because she's been doing this impersonation. And I had no idea. I do a radio show on Saturday nights, and right after my radio show, I get this text message like, "Hey, how cool was it, that shout out from Sarah Palin?" I'm like, "What?" And all of a sudden, I get phone calls from Larry King and all these people. How does it feel to be Sarah Palin's favorite Baldwin? So it was funny. It was just
poetic. Yes, it was funny.
Now let's go back a bit. You were raised Roman Catholic, and I read in some of your information you actually studied like classical voice when you were younger.
When I was...
Care to present an aria for us?
Nice try, girlfriend. Nice try. Put the glasses back on, and maybe you could trick me into it. No, it's funny that you said that, though, because I just actually auditioned twice in the last 8-9 months for 2 Broadway musicals.
Oh, I could so see that. I could so see that.
They're doing Guys and Dolls
on
Broadway, and I went into audition for the Sky Masterson part, which I haven't heard back about. I don't think it's going to happen. But I'm too busy anyway with a bunch of other stuff. But certainly, I was very talented in my youth, trained in opera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, when I got into my senior year of high school and had to really kind of, into my college years, make a decision about what my future was, I think that the the lack of discipline that you can get away with in the acting profession was the right way to go.
Worked for you.
That was good for me back then.
Too much work to go into that classical voice thing.
Well, you couldn't believe it. Well, the thing that was the deciding factor for me was in high school, I would compete for these solos in these state competitions, and it went back and forth. There was like 2 or 3 other guys in my school that, like, you know, this guy would win one and that guy would win one, and you know, I'd win one, and those guys were practicing 2, 3, 4 hours a day, and I was, you know, out running around with my hoodlum buddies.
The shower practicing was pretty much the extent
Yeah, exactly.
of it. Yeah.
You know, and we were, you know, in the locker room, kind of whipping each other with the towels, you know, and you know, just being guys.
Yeah.
And the singing part for me was just this very natural, organic part of my ability, but it was nothing ever that I loved like those guys loved.
Yeah.
And for me, when it came time to say, well, what are you going to do, and how are you going to make a living, and what are you going to pursue, the acting was more intriguing to me, and I knew I just didn't have the love for the singing that I did for potentially the acting. So,
now I have to say, there were a lot of people when news broke that Stephen Baldwin has become a Jesus freak Christian. People were like, "You're kidding me." I mean, if that can happen to him, it can happen to anybody.
Sure.
How did that transition happen in your life?
well, it's funny you say that, because, you know, when I read those headlines, I went, you got to be kidding me. I didn't believe it. No, but that's the fun I get to have in my ministry now is I was working on a film about 11, 12 months ago, and this young man, an actor, is on the set with me. 3 days of filming. The kid's like, you know, professional. We're working, rehearsal, say the lines, cut, shoot, rap, you know, blah, 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 Hollywood stuff. And on the 3rd day, this guy says to me, I have a question. I said, what's that? He says, how's everything going with that, you know, that stuff you do now? I said, that stuff I do now. He goes, yeah, you know, that whole thing that you're into now.
Magic?
I said, yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, you mean my faith? He goes, yeah, that. He goes, how's that? What's up with that? I said, well, what do you mean? I went into a quick little explanation of what it means to be born again and blah, 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 blah. It was very casual. And he goes, huh, it's interesting, you know, because you seem perfectly normal. I said, well, praise God, brother.
He used to be normal, yeah.
But that's been the blessing for me, you know, is that I get to be in certain situations and environments where I can represent my faith, never compromising to the best of my ability what it means, who I am, and the you know, the word of the Lord. But at the same time, I tell people, like I told that young man, I said, listen, buddy, when I went to God and said, I'm going to try this thing, and really, I want you to reveal yourself, I was the last person that ever thought it was going to make a difference. In fact, when I got saved, I turned around and said, I'm the first person to say to you, I can't believe this either, you know, and thus, if I can get saved, then anybody can get saved, you know, coming from, you know, the world I came from, which is all depicted in my first book. But certainly, I think that having the testimony that my wife and I have, which was a woman came into our lives, this cleaning woman from Brazil, my wife's from Brazil, she came to work for us and said that, you know, the Lord had spoken to her about my wife and I becoming born again and being in ministry. That was 15 years ago. 7 years ago, my wife gets saved. A year later, I get saved. And for me, it wasn't the fact that all of that came true. It was in the retrospective, looking back at the way that the Lord had done what he had done, that just blew my mind and made this thing more gripping and engaging for me. And for me, I'm the kind of guy, I'm a skydiver, I race cars, and I do a lot of adrenaline rush kind of stuff. And there's no question that this experience for me is greater than anything I've had in the world, because it is, in the supernatural, in the spiritual world, it is an adrenaline rush. If you really commit to it, if you really surrender to it and let the Holy Spirit lead you.
Well, you know, we're going to get to, you mentioned your book, we're going to get to your other book on the other side of this break, but before we do on the other side of the break, we're going to talk quickly about The Apprentice and your experience on that. So when you come back, more Stephen Baldwin, we'll see you on the other side.